go fast because it's not even going to end. So, but we are not alone. That is something that I became aware when you started, start to think in other kind of scientists out there that really make the things. They give the experiments to us to try to prove that the Earth is stationary. So everyone knows the Michelson-Morley experiment, the Sagnac experiment. For example, the Foucault pendulum. When I become aware, thanks to Mr. Hiban Thrive and Survive, I can't remember the names of the channel, with the alias effects. This is the alias effects proven by University of Spain. You have the pendulum clock, just go back and forward. So what's happened? The Earth was stopped in that moment. So that is the kind of things that the regular people try to use to debunk the movement of the Earth or things like that. And of course, we have Spanish people creating and writing books about that the Earth is not moving, and of course, some science portal take that notice and try to, to put out there for the regular people. And of course, our universe is totally electrical. That is no doubt about it. You have a lot of guys today speaking about that. For example, this is experiment made by the Thunderbolt project guys who recreate geophysics terraforming based on electricity with granite, with granite, and you can see how the moon, for example, the crater of the moon, there are no trails to the meteorite impacts, so there are all perpendicular impacts here also. So you can notice that how in lab they can reproduce this with electricity. So there is no doubt that our world is completely electrical. Of course, if you want, you can send some meteors. I forget to show the meteor shower based on electrical forces, sorry. But if you want some artificial meteorite, you can buy it to a company who send you to your garden, to your backyard. Of course, we have the sprites, for example. This is a lot of study, and if you can look here, look the limits. This is in the top of the atmosphere, so you can see the limit, and the electricity can go up because our atmosphere is composed by a lot of gases, but one of those gases, which is the hexafluoro gas, this gas is shooting down all electricity, doesn't have any color, it doesn't have any, it's a helium-free type of liquid up there, so that is why they can go out, even the own electricity. And we have that kind of things that determine, this is a symbolic, because this is the real serpent of the knowledge. The aurora borealis have that energy that, it's when you close your eyes and make some wishes, you also trying to find your black sun, because the black sun is the real manifestation sun. The white sun is for give energy, but the manifestation properties come from the dark, if you wanted to see in that way. If you press your eyes, you're going to see also like little sparks, green color, blue color. So that is the real power inside our system to manifestate and create reality. That is why they use, you can see here, this is the aurora borealis, this is the moon, and this is the white sun and the black sun. It's all a system. It's nothing, it's not the black sun, it's not the bad sun. That is what they tell.
Good afternoon. My name is.
Sorry. That is what they tell to us to, to get away of that kind of knowledge. But the real knowledge is that there is nothing out there in our planet that is bad. All is a system, very balanced. There are equilibrium. We have Don Scott, for example, talking about the electrical sun.
My name is Don Scott. The electric sun is a sort of a natural outgrowth of the electrical universe hypothesis. We know that there are magnetic fields.
Well, I just, sorry for the audio interruption, but if you want to see more about the electric sun and that kind of stuff, you can search for your own Don Scott explanations.
There seems to be a new model,
because
or at least another patch.
The heliocentric model is fall apart. It's not have any kind of sense how they did, how they tell us that works, this term of fusion, nuclear reaction, that kind of stuff.
And I would like to then
It's like talking about angels, you know, things like that. And some engineers and some guys, they know that this is a little trick, so they start to speak in conference in Europe, and they are doing a great job to trying to give another kind of information. So, for example, you can see this is, for example, what time is it? You may think that this is the midday or the afternoon. Can you put play, please? So if you compare this is a lighting. If the light comes from a lighting, so the sun have the same properties to give us light. So I don't know if can you put play? There is. So it's a lighting storm. So that is why the cameras need to make a white balance anytime they film outside, because we have that you know, that light blue enter into the lens, because it's electrical light. Of course, if you put fire beside the plant is just gonna die and dry. But if you put a lighting bulb beside the plant is going to grow up. And all our body, the molecules, the ADN in our bodies, all is electrical. So that is why we need the sunlight. Of course, if you compare, for example, lighting arcs with the so-called flares, sun flares, you're going to see very quickly that it's more like electrical than fire. So, of course, we have guys like Faraday, Gauss, Hertz, Ampere, a lot of scientists of the 18th centuries who discovered this kind of energy. And today we have the plasma, what they call, they don't want to recognize that this is for the ether, because the ether is eternal, it's all is the ether. There is no ether. That is why the sound, the energy, the electromagnetic field can fly, and we come here. Of course, we have even people about NASA to complain about the Big Bang theory that never happened. That is why, when you start to realize, look at this guy, Halton Harp, with the Tesla invention, trying to give the hint of the universe is electrical. The Big Bang is just another fairy tale history. And you notice why these guys are so, persecuted, because this is what happened. The Jesuits and the Jews control all the science, educations, health, everything. So when you are a real scientist and you start to see how these people are really inside of all the science, you piss off, of course. We have the limits, Ushuaia, called the end of the world. And I ask myself, why is it going to be the end of the world if it's a sphere? That doesn't have any sense. But if you are looking in the Gleason map and you see Antarctic, and we are the most country beside Antarctic, that is why Ushuaia is called the end of the world. Some guys say, okay, what happened with the water? What is the edge and that kind of stuff? And there are people that realize that the Antarctic is the most highest continent in the world. The Antarctic, when you enter to the coast of Antarctic, very soon it's going to rise up 2,500 meters, promenade of the continent. So that is why the balloons very quickly go up the clouds. You can see the NASA balloon with the flat horizon in the Antarctic. So where is the curve? That's something that need to, pay attention to this kind of thing. So that is why when you talk about the wall of Antarctic, there isn't any wall, because the iceberg that floating around on the water, that's just iceberg. The real wall is because this rise up 2,500 meters. And of course, the technology of the human race is very far away from the technology of the creation, so we can penetrate the Antarctic. That is the real thing. So they keep it totally controlled with military bases, with treatments, and that kind of stuff. And all the circumnavigations around the world was made west to east, so you don't have other, other choice. Of course, the land inside the Antarctic is also a real great place to fake Mars. I don't know, maybe this is a guy from NASA telling us that, and there is no audio, but he's telling, okay, this surface is the better to test our machines if anytime we're going to go to the Mars. So you can see how the things start to connect. And let me keep going. I have 15 minutes left. So, for example, this is by Argentina expeditions trying to pass, to make a trip in Groenlandia, which is the Arctic. And this is just what they do. They can go inside the Greenland, So you can start to see the limits. This is, for example, an abandoned base from the Cold War. So they don't have any interest. And maybe, I think they take away the attention from Arctic because there is maybe the real, paradise, Shambhala, Agartha, etc., etc., etc. So they can allow to enter there because they are like demons. So they go to the Inverno, to the cold areas. And that cold areas are, of course, the Antarctic. But I don't think that nobody can access right away to the Arctic. So they distract us showing these things in Antarctic. Of course, everybody knows the super deep Kola hole. That is the limit to going down, 12 kilometers. Even the ExxonMobil trying to reach a more deep on the ground, but they can do it. It's a lot of information about this studying. We can put audio, please, for this one. I don't know why it's not audio. Okay, I'm going to put it again. This is very important. The audio?
There's a section of abyssal plain, a kind of flat line.
This is from Yale University,
section,
and when he teaches to the...
all the deep blue is abyssal plain.
So this is abyssal plain, go down deep 5 kilometers, and all this is flat. So all this blue is flat. And this is the abyssal plain. Look here, Africa to South America, totally flat. How 1,000 kilometers are there? So what is the curve underwater, So, of course, this guy is not teaching flat earth, but when you start to see these details in the regular, studies, you can see how the things start to... of course, anyone knows maybe the submarine that can go down in the Marianas underwater zone. I'm going quickly because I don't going to finish the presentation. So that are the limits. This is the guy who dies, who filming the underwater limit, died on the accident of helicopters in Australia. A little strange. So after all, the water is always level. We have, for example, the city of Venetia, who have 400 square kilometers totally at the sea level, for example. I don't know, you can try to find any example of a cool water, you're going to find none. So if you start to thinking and, okay, at what altitude you need to use to see the curve, you can do it by the Pythagorean method, by Samuel Robson method, by Bhaskara, the Indian mathematician's method. You can find the same result. Of course, this is not really accurate, but for the 1,000 of kilometers, it's really a good measurement. So when you're trying to ask even like Google, the Scientist magazine is going to tell you that at 20 kilometers, the curve of the Earth is totally perceptible and no doubt. So when you start to see balloons and rocket launches, these are rocket launches compilation, and these are balloon compilations, and it's flat. There is not any curve. Some of this video has a lens correction, of course, because they are with GoPro, and it's all the time is flat, and then there is no any curve out there. And of course, the physics and the optics is going to tell us that with the camera, the range of the visible of the camera of the human eyes is going to end, obviously, is going to end in a circular limitation. That is what we call angle of view. If you're talking about angles, you're talking about circular things. So this is the most far away that the camera can capture the lights. But sometimes you're gonna see flat, sometimes you're gonna be like circular, but very far away to see a curve. And we're talking about 120 kilometers in that kind of view. And look at this balloon. From this point to this point, you can see thousands of kilometers. Look at the real clouds mixing and changing. That's something never shows in the ISS. The ISS is always the cloud totally stick, never moves, nothing like that. And we had time lapse about 6 hours because they need 6 hours to move a robotic arm, and the clouds never change. So you can start to compare real stuff with, tricks about Hollywood tricks using by trick people. So, of course, we have another kind of limit to test the limits with the operations, military operation via USA and via Russia, and both reach the same limit of 8,000 kilometers, 80 kilometers, sorry. And maybe some of these explosions are fake or are, composite, but they use symbolic name to try to get out, the Thor, the hammer of the Thor, to try to break the glass. And you can see some explosion that take the form of donuts because they can go up, because it's all this pressure of the atmosphere. So look, if that explosion can go up, I don't think a rocket can get out. And this is the gas that I'm talking about. This is a really interesting topic. I don't have time to show you, but have in mind, this gas is 5 times more dense than the air, and this gas has a presence of 3,200 years each time a volcan make eruption, for example. So can you imagine that's how much of this gas is up there? It's a lot of gas. So you can see how they trick us. For example, this is our rocket launches. You can see the rocket launches is all the time. If you see for a really long perspective, you can see how the rocket go in a straight line. Of course, if you are in the place, you're going to see how, for example, this is a view for a frontal view. You can see how the rocket comes into the view. Down, you can see how the rocket go far away in this arc motion. But when SpaceX and these guys trying to show how they're going to put an orbit, a satellite orbit, they are in this mode. They go in a straight line. And I'm waiting for the video to reach. So if you see, for example, this is from a balloon, this is from a plane, and this is from the ground, and this is from the camera on the rocket. This is from the CRS-7 from SpaceX, and that is the rocket trying to get out. I don't know where, because there is a lot of land to try to go off the curve. And here you can see the flat horizon and how this rocket is traveling in a straight line, simply as that. So if you compare with, for example, the power of a telescope, if you put in horizontal line, you're not going to see more than 50 kilometers. So when they're pointing up there, at the last moment that the rocket, drop away the principal booster and that kind of stuff, that rocket is at least at 60 kilometers, no more. So that is the way they need to cut off the video and put some Google Earth animation and that kind of stuff. These rocket launches, they don't reach more than 40, 50 kilometers at much. And there is a company called Flightline, a real strange name, who has this telescope to filming, and if you enter to the web page, they can reach with this camera more than 20, 30 kilometers. So that at that point, this spacecraft is supposedly 20,000 kilometers per hour to escape the gravitational force. It's really a crazy thing. So the limits maybe could be 100 to 250 kilometers going up. The sides is the limit by the Antarctic perimeter, the center is the Arctic, and down we have also 12 to 50 kilometers. That is the most thing that we can do in, material war. In the spiritual war, maybe you can go a little more far away. 6 minutes. So I'm going to pass really quickly these ones. Sorry for, if you like, after the presentation, you can ask me for anything you want. So, because I am computer animation, I used to work for History Channel, for UNESCO and other companies, and they asked to my studio to make a lot of things about the space, satellites, spherical world, that are my portfolio. At that time, of course, I didn't know that this is all a lie. Everyone knows that the all-eye composite is CGI. Everybody knows that even the own NASA tell us that it must be Photoshop because they don't have any other chance. And they fake all this kind of stuff, not just for the spherical Earth. They also use CGI to present us the star field, the galaxy, the new planet that discover every week. You know, that is a really amazing things. We have Robert Hart working by NASA, trying to, and they show the things. We have the friendship companies working together, like Adobe with the pyramid in the logo, or Autodesk with the pyramid in the logo, or Microsoft with the pyramid inside Micro and Soft. And you can see how these families work together to trick us. This is, for example, a little Earth that I made myself in a few couple of hours in the 3D Studio Max. You can see I can use this as a background for any kind of video. So it's very easy to create this kind of stuff. And of course, the first images or the supposedly photographs, because one thing is a photograph, another thing is an image. Image comes from imagination, and photograph is supposedly to be real objects. The first one are these ones. But how they make it at that time, because at that time there is no CGI, of course. So they use matte painting. This is a very common technique used in Hollywood called matte painting. Of course, in our days it's digital matte painting. But you can see, for example, even the patents of the method. This is a patent from 1905, very long time ago, how they use on NASA to painting the Earth, then they painting the clouds, and they filming, and there you go, your non-CGI moon landing and other kind of stuff at that decade. So you have all the patents, how they, of course they tell it's a simulator, but when you compare to reality, it's really, it's like the reality. You have this guy was the Rochelle Hayward was the guy who make the miniatures for the moon landing, and he works with Walt Disney, and he also is an alchemist. He believes in ether. This is a book from this guy. He created the projection screen that they use also Stanley Kubrick in the fake moon landing. So you can see how these families work together. They also have even, apparatus and method for simulating spacecraft erosion. So they have all the simulations for faking everything. And why in the past the images looks more realistic? Because they use miniatures and they photograph the miniatures. So that is more realistic than today, because today we need to lead with CGI. The only problem is that it's very difficult to emulate the reality, the light bounces and that kind of stuff. So in the past it was more easy because they just photograph real objects and then composite with matte painting. So when you start to see the method using, you start notice the method like self-locomotion system, which is impossible to predict a behavior, a physical behavior before you go to the moon landing in the lab. And when you start to compare, you're going to see the same kind of behavior. So that's a crazy thing. Nobody can believe that this guy, the dust is falling in real time, and the guy is trying to stay up. If you go down like this, it's really, if you start to compare the things, you're going to notice that there is a lot of inconvenient thing. We have the Gatsby plane. And the pattern of the Gatsby plane is for reduced gravity conditions airplane. So this is a huge plane to emulate whatever environment inside of this plane. I don't say that this is 100% the ISS, but you have space there to fake a little things. And of course, if you start to compare with other methods, the magician of this guy is also Freemasonic. So they work together. When you start to see you start to compare the method of the astronaut, you're going to realize that when they go live, they use harnesses. Here you have the patent. This guy is stuck trying to make this. It's a mess. Yeah. This guy is falling down quickly. And it's really, I make computer animation, so I know how this is doing, how they're doing this. So for me, it was, I never see it before. That is why I never wake up to this reality. But they use all the kind of trick that it's amazing. I have more material, but my time's run out. So the last thing, for example, we can see, there are totally clowns. You can see here, why is a gorilla, in the space, and that kind of things. This is very, that one of my favorites, because here you can see really that how they touch the wires, and there is and this guy, for example, why they pick up a baseball in the space to distract us from see this woman who is, pulling by the cable. So they can replicate everything they want in CGI, in zero-G planes, and it's very easy for it to trick us. I get out time, but the control remote is not working anymore. So the last thing, the last two minutes, please. For example, Google Earth is made by world-class Bexel camera aerogrid systems. They mapping all the Earth with planes, and if you compare, for example, with the method using in satellite, you will notice that this is real and this is a joke, because this is a world-class system. They have this kind of company all around the plane, so they synchronize all the informations, and that is why they make, that is all controlled by CIA. All the images that they took, they need to supervise by the other agency before putting it on the public. So we have the drone technology. It's very easy in those days to fake the things. Of course, they construct the satellites, but they put it up in the balloon, and the rest is fiber optics, ionosphere bouncing. So there is very, very when you see those white point up there in the sky, if you start to compare, are balloons. Of course, at this altitude, for example, you can see the equipment of the satellite, and this little point is the real big equipment. And look at 50 kilometers, you don't able to see anymore, and these balloons rise up to 40 kilometers because sometimes they use super pressure balloons. So there is no any satellite up there in orbit. Yes, there is hanging on the balloons and things like that. So I need to go. My time go out. Thanks for listening.
He can come over and visit you at your house. You can call.
I'm a queen. Okay.
There is a lot of things that we all know, but what you bring to the table is something that we all need to know more.
I'm gonna make it special in the night if you want. Okay. Thank you. Okay.
A long way.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Thanks to everyone.
Landucci.